Holy sh**.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Alex here with TFL Bike. I'm here in a parking garage kind of late at night in Los Angeles. I promise you though, a lot of the riding footage is during the day, not at night. But behind me is the all-new Yamaha MT-10 SP. The SP is the more premium version of the MT-10. We already did a full review and first ride on the standard MT-10 a couple of months ago from North Carolina. Now we've got the premium version here, so in this video we're gonna get it out on a little bit of an adventurous ride. It's kind of raining out there, it's a little miserable, so should make for a good adventure, and we'll see what it's all about.
There's a lot of new stuff going on with this new MT-10, both for the standard model and the SP model that I'm riding right now. And like I said, I already did that video, so if you want every single detail, all the nitty and gritty on everything Yamaha has done to update this bike, go check out that original MT-10 video I did a couple months ago. I'll link it in the description. But this video, it's all about the SP. So what does the more premium SP get you for the extra cost? I'm gonna tell you the price right off the bat. $16,900, so $100 shy of 17 grand, which is a $2,900 price increase over the standard model. And the main thing you're gonna get is Öhlins semi-active electronically controlled suspension. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, buddy. Of course, you've got the well-proven 998cc inline 4 cross-plane engine from Yamaha. And boy, is there a lot of character out of this motor. But yeah, besides the electronic suspension, you get a couple of extra goodies, mostly in the form of added styling. And we'll go through all that. And man, one thing I am really not used to is lane splitting. I've done it before. This is not my first time lane splitting on a motorcycle, but it's not legal anywhere but here. God, that makes so much sense though. Why isn't that legal everywhere? When I rode the standard MT-10 in North Carolina, we did a lot of highway miles, so this is nothing new. But I did want to comment on how well the MT-10 works as a highway bike. It's nice and smooth when you're at a low RPM, so it's not uncomfortable and vibrating you to pieces. It's got a comfortable riding position and plenty of passing power. Oh my God. You've also got cruise control on this, so, you know, not that the SP is any better or worse as a highway bike than the standard MT-10, but just wanted to point that out. This bike is super nice on the highway.
Just like the standard MT-10, this MT-10 SP is an all-new generation for the MT-10, which is Yamaha's flagship hyper naked bike. It sits at the top of the lineup. So all the same changes we saw in that standard MT-10, they all make its way to this bike. One of the big ones being an all-new design. So if you look up front, we have a new front end design with the Y-shaped running lights, still have the asymmetrical headlight design, and this is a design that is very controversial, so I'll let you decide in the comments what you think of the look. Some of the bodywork has been reshaped around the tank. You now have functional intake ducts here, whereas before on the previous generation they were just for aesthetics. And one of the big changes is these acoustic vents up here. Yamaha had to revise the intake and the exhaust system to meet Euro 5 just like the standard model, and now there's these acoustic vents to pump some induction noise back at the rider. So that's all the same, just like the standard MT-10. What is different on this this SP compared to the standard MT-10, the main one is going to be your suspension. So you're looking at an Öhlins electronically controlled front fork in this nice gold color. You can see the wires coming out of the top of those, and the same thing in the rear. We have an Öhlins electronically controlled rear shock as well, whereas on the standard model, I believe it's all KYB suspension components, and they are adjustable but not electronically controlled. Besides the suspension, there's a lot of cosmetic things Yamaha did to this bike to set it apart from the standard model. So first of all, you have the paint scheme that resembles the R1M, which Yamaha's been doing on all the SP bikes for some time now, which is that black, blue, and silver with a little accent of gold in there. You also have some blacked out accents as well. So for example, the levers, they're done in black, whereas on the standard model, they are silver. And you also get a belly pan on the SP version, which I think just really cleans up the look of the bike, makes it look a little sportier, and really integrates this oil cooler a lot better than if this weren't here. So that's one of the things you get with the SP version as well. You also get this really cool looking swing arm. It's a polished and clear coated swing arm, and that just looks awesome compared to kind of the standard gray you get on the standard MT-10. You also get a gold chain, a little bit of a different seat with some nice stitching in it that you don't see on the standard model either.
Well, we're riding closer to the ocean right now, and looks like the hellish storms are moving that way, so we might actually be in the clear. What a weird day in LA, man. I'm afraid if we ride up into those mountains at all, though, we're gonna get hammered by the rain, but we'll see. I have ridden this exact stretch of road a couple times. I actually made a video here once on the Ducati Scrambler desert sled. And anytime I'm up here in Santa Monica, heading up to Malibu on a motorcycle, it makes me want to move to Southern California. It snowed already this season in Denver, and here you can just ride year-round with amazing views. You're allowed to lane split. It's epic. Look at that. We've got ocean to our left, mountains directly in front of us, and some big clouds rolling in. Also, I feel my Apple Watch going absolutely berserk right now. And I'm in a big group ride. There's 3 bikes ahead of me and another like 6 behind me. And I think my watch just like emergency SOS and called 911. My phone's blowing up in my pocket now. Oh well. God, this is beautiful. Yeah, I've done plenty of mountain rides, but there's something really cool about looking over and seeing the ocean when you're on a motorcycle. Damn, my watch is going freaking nuts.
Hello, your phone dialed into 911. If you have an emergency, redial 911. Thank you. Goodbye.
The California Highway Patrol, your phone dialed into 911. If you have an emergency, redial 911 and stay on the line. If you do not have an emergency, please secure your phone.
All right, so let's talk suspension. This Öhlins electronically controlled active suspension. So this is a new system compared to what was on the previous MT-10 SP, although we didn't get that bike in the States, but totally new system. It's technology derived from the R1M. So this has all the same ECUs, and I believe there's actually a secondary control box that does all the work for the suspension. It's not going through the main ECU. But anyway, you have electronically controlled front forks. You can see the little 2 wires coming into the top of them. Same thing with the rear shock. You have wires going into that. Everything's controlled by a computer. There's 6 different modes for this electronic suspension. We're throwing more modes at this bike as if it weren't already confusing enough. So I'm in A2 right now, which is kind of the middle ground setting for street riding. They're all customizable, and I'll show you that in a bit. And when you change the overall mode, so like I'm in mode B right now, which is linked to A2, but if I switch it to mode C, it'll pop into A3. So everything's universally changed, just like all the other settings on the bike, as you would expect. And the system can seem a little daunting at first, but once you figure out how it works, it's really not all that bad. It's just a little bit confusing. But anyway, 3 settings. You have A1, A2, and A3. A1, or all your A settings actually, are your active settings. So it uses the computer. It will read what the bike is doing a ridiculous amount of times per second. I think it's like 2,000 times per second, or maybe it's even 20,000. Forget the exact number, but it's fast. And it will take all those measurements and then fine-tune the suspension for exactly what you need it to do. So if you're coming onto the brakes, it'll stiffen up the front forks. If you're accelerating out of a corner, it'll stiffen up that rear shock and just balance everything better to make for a better riding experience. So A1, 2, and 3, those are all your active suspension settings. A1 being the stiffest or most aggressive for the track. A2 being kind of the middle ground street setting, and A3 being your kind of comfort or touring setting. And then you have 3 different manual modes, M1, M2, and M3. Those are not active. I wish I had my camera rolling when I first hopped on this bike for the first time today, because I mean immediately, the first turn I took out of the parking lot, it just felt way better than the standard version. Not that the standard version felt bad, but you could just right away feel that this was stiffening up and reacting to what was under the bike. And I haven't ridden a ton of bikes with electronic suspension. I've ridden a handful of them, and whenever you get on one of these, it brings a smile to my face. It's impressive. Like I said, the standard MT-10 I rode a couple months ago, nothing wrong with the suspension, but it just felt a little slow to respond sometimes. And this, you really feel connected to every little crack in the road. Nothing's unexpected. And I'm sure, you get this thing out doing a pretty good pace with it, and you're really gonna see a noticeable difference between the 2 suspension setups. You can tell a little bit on roads like this, but going 45 miles an hour, there's only so much you can pick up on.
Now this should all look familiar if you have seen the new MT-10, the standard version. You have the same TFT display on here, but there's really just one thing added, and that's your suspension settings. So right now I'm in A2, you can see all the different modes here, and just like with every other setting on this bike, as you kind of adjust the universal mode, so I'm in mode B right now, and if you adjust the different modes, it adjusts every parameter, including the electronically controlled suspension. Now you can get really advanced with it. You can hold down the menu wheel to bring up the menu, go into YRC setting, and just like on the standard version, you can go through and adjust everything for A, B, C, and D modes, so you can make quick settings basically. But you'll notice that on the very end, we now have an ERS, which is for our suspension, and there's a bunch of different modes there. So all of your A modes are going to be your active suspension modes, where it's using the IMU to read what's happening and make adjustments on the fly. So again, these are all customizable, but A1's the most stiff, really for like aggressive sport riding or track riding. A2 is going to be your street mode. A3 is going to be your kind of comfort touring mode, and then you have some fully customizable manual modes that are non-active as well, and then it gets even a little more advanced than that. You can go through for A1, A2, and A3, and you can fine-tune all the settings for brake support, corner support, acceleration support, front firm, and rear firm. And one thing to note is that when you go to A3, you lose the control for corner and acceleration support. There's a lot there, and this is just getting more and more complicated with each new bike that comes out, but really once you learn how to use this system, it's not all that bad. I made this comment in my last video on the MT-10. I wish they did like high and low or on and off, or race track and touring or sport, and named the different modes. That's kind of my one complaint about this. And also that you can't switch modes on the fly. That's really a bummer. And I'm not sure why that is, because some of Yamaha's other models will let you change modes on the fly. Anyway, it's a great screen. There's a lot of settings there. If you know how to work the system before, operating all the new suspension settings is pretty straightforward and easy. If you've never operated this system before, it'll probably take you a day to get used to, but after that, it's dirt simple. And besides that, this is pretty similar to the standard MT-10. So you still have that 998cc cross-plane crank inline 4 from Yamaha, which sounds amazing. It's a nice, fun engine with lots of character. Not quite the same exact engine as in the R1. The injectors are a little bit different. The connecting rods are steel instead of titanium, so there are some differences, but the framework of this bike is pretty much an R1 at heart, and the chassis is too. It uses the same exact frame, same swing arm as an R1, and I even believe that like the rake and everything, the chassis geometry is the same as well. I could be wrong on that, so let me know if I am down in the comments, but basically you have an R1 that is, or an R1M that is made for the street, much more comfortable, and got plenty of power, and now a more premium suspension setting.
There is a little bit of a difference in the braking setup between this SP MT-10 and the standard version of the MT-10. So both bikes for this year got a new radial master cylinder by Brembo up front, and oh, we're going to have fun now. Hold on. All right, so we're not getting clobbered with rain yet, but it has been raining like the past 2 days here, so the roads are a little dirty and a little sketchy, so we're taking it a little easier than we would on a perfect road. This engine is so fun to ride these twisties with, because oh, that was a GP shift. My race bike is opposite shift. Whoops. But you saw what I was talking about there. This motor has so much torque, 62 or 64 foot-pounds of torque. So you can really lug through gears. Wow, this road's sturdy. You can lug through gears no problem, which, you know, probably doesn't help you get any better at riding because you can get pretty lazy, but it's a lot of fun. The braking setup on this MT-10 SP is a little bit different than the standard model. Both bikes, the SP and the standard model, get new Brembo master cylinders. You have a new radial master cylinder up front, but this SP model gets steel braided brake lines, and you don't get that on the standard version. That is a nice touch, although I do wish that you got like a caliper upgrade or something a little bit more impressive, since this is, you know, the more premium version of the bike. And really the only premium thing you get besides style is suspension, which isn't the worst thing in the world, but it'd be cool if you got a little bit of a better caliper. Oh boy, mud, mud, mud. I'm riding in B mode right now, which gives you power mode 2, but traction control mode 3. And I'm glad I'm in TCS 3 right now, because these roads are terrible. Oh boy. What are we doing here? Thank God for traction aids and ABS. Holy shit. And we're stopping to do photos here. No way. Man.
Okay, so on the way down, it'll be a lot closer. Just gotta hang out.
Cool. Yeah. So if you guys were wondering how we get these cool thumbnail photos and tracking shots while we're making these riding videos, it's all thanks to the help of Yamaha. Alright, it's happening. We're all geared up in our rain gear, head to toe. A little windy, a little rainy. It's gonna be fun though. Alright, well, it's a little cold, a little rainy, a little wet. Nothing we can't ride in though. And that's what's so great about having all this tech and a 6-axis IMU is you can tone things back. I'm in mode C right now. Power mode is in 3, traction control mode 4, slide control mode 3, and active suspension in mode 2. Which really makes this a nice bike to ride in really any kind of condition. I guess not snow, but you know, the roads are a little wet. You can tone it back a little bit. And now the roads are just a little bit wet. It's not really raining so much anymore like it was down on the water. So I'd like to go back to mode B, and that's one of the biggest drawbacks with the software on this bike. It will not let you switch modes on the fly, which is a pretty big bummer. So you have to be completely stopped in order to switch the modes. Anytime you get on a bike with Öhlins suspension, and especially, you know, a high-end system that's electronically controlled, it's really mind-blowing. Especially if you don't own a bike that has it and you're not used to riding with that every day. Everything just feels super responsive, super sharp. And it doesn't take any brain power. It's set it and forget it. You just put it in whatever mode you want and the bike handles everything for you, and you don't need to touch it again until you change your riding style, really. The suspension on the standard MT-10, it wasn't bad at all, but when you compare the two, it definitely makes the suspension on the standard model feel a little lazy, a little less precise. With this, you can feel every little crack and divot and bump in the road. And you know that it's adjusting things for you. So, you know, if you come onto the brakes pretty hard, it's going to stiffen up the front because you're putting a lot of load on that front end. And then, you know, if you get on the gas really hard, coming out of a turn, it's going to stiffen up that rear to put more power down to the ground. So yeah, it's a good suspension system. I'm pretty impressed with it, and that's the main selling point of this bike right here. That's the main reason to get the SP over the standard model, is the Öhlins suspension. A lot of people will add Öhlins suspension to whatever motorcycle they have later on down the line during ownership, which you can do with this bike, but you're probably not going to be able to get the electronically controlled system. You can throw a nice set of Öhlins suspension on just about any bike, but because this needs to be integrated with the IMU and all the sensors and integrated into the software and the dash of the bike, if you want an MT-10 with electronic suspension, it's probably way easier to just get it from the factory than to try and add it after the fact. I know I mentioned the price at the start of this video, but talk about it again real quick. $16,899, so $100 shy of 17 grand for this bike, which is a $2,900 price increase stepping up to this over the standard MT-10. Oh my God, there's a lot of crap in the road. So is it worth it? You get, you know, steel braided brake lines, a little bit of an upgraded look, an electronic Olin suspension for $2,900. I think that's pretty worth it. Like I said, it would have been nice to see a more premium brake caliper, or maybe just a few other things to really set this apart from the standard MT-10. But that would have driven up price. And honestly, under $3,000 to get a super high-end electronic suspension, I don't think that's all that terrible. But I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Would you save your money and go for the $14,000 standard version, or spend almost $17,000 to get the more premium SP? For obvious reasons, I wasn't really pushing the bike today in this weather, so, you know, would I have loved to really ride this bike and see more of a difference between the two suspension systems? Absolutely. But there's only so much you can do on wet roads, especially when you're on a bike that is not owned by you. So I did what I could. But even still, I mean, just kind of cruising around on wet roads, you totally can feel a difference between this and the standard MT-10 suspension. Look at that rainbow. That's rad. I actually really enjoy riding in the rain. Find it very peaceful. Love the sound of all the raindrops hitting my helmet, and it's really not all that bad, especially when you're kitted out in the right way. These tires, Bridgestone Battle Axe Hypersport S22 tires, not too bad in the rain. I'm sure you could do better with a different tire, but I'm doing just fine on these. And with the proper rain gear on your body, really don't have a whole lot to worry about. It's 59 degrees right now, and I'm actually working up a good sweat. This rain gear doesn't breathe that easily, and I'm a little over layered right now, so I'm getting hot. Holy like riding through a swamp.
So there you have it, the all-new Yamaha MT-10 SP. I was really excited to check one of these out. I've been kind of dreaming of owning an SP bike from Yamaha for a while, but they never brought them here to the States. So this is the first time we're getting like the MT-09 SP and the MT-10 SP, and before those were, you know, reserved for Europe. So I'm really glad to see them making their way to the States. I think a premium suspension, big leader bike from a Japanese company is definitely an enticing pick. There's a lot of competition out there. A lot of the competition with electronically controlled suspension tends to be more expensive than this. Not saying 17 grand for a motorcycle is inexpensive whatsoever. That's definitely a lot of money, but I think you could do worse. I had a blast on it. Could have had more fun on it if it wasn't raining so hard, so hopefully I'll get some more seat time at some point, because this is just an awesome bike. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to head on over to alltfl.com. Catch you in the next video.